This is Herzog Zwei. I'll just use the Americanized pronunciation of the title. Herzog Zwei, translation, one of the best video games ever made. The literal translation is Duke 2. After a couple hundred video game reviews, I'm finally getting to one of my favorite games ever made. And if you ask me what are my top 5 favorite games, sometimes the list changes a little bit depending what mood I'm in, what I've been playing. There's always 2 consistent titles at the top of the list, Ms. Pac-Man and Herzog Zwei. This is my favorite video game on the Sega Genesis, and I think this is one of the best video games ever made. I've held off from reviewing this game on Classic Game Room for a while because I wanted to do a good job with it, and it's a very difficult game to describe to people. Herzog Zwei is a real-time strategy game where you play as a transforming jet. Basically like a Transformer or a Veritech fighter from Robotech or something. You fly around the screen as the jet, and then you can transform into a giant robot and shoot things. What's not to like about that? This is the first part of a multi-part review because I want to make sure I cover this game thoroughly in the review here. And I'm going to try to get you as excited about Herzog Zwei as I am about playing this game. What we're watching is the single-player mode on one of 8 levels. There's 8 different environments that you can play on in this game. The one that we're watching is called Waldung. They always have very descriptive titles on these levels. The game is produced by Technosoft for the Sega Genesis. This was released in 1990 in the United States, and is a sequel to Herzog 1, which I guess was on a Japanese computer or game console. I've never actually seen the first one. It's a combination of a real-time strategy game and a top-down action game, which is really unique, and the gameplay of this game is something like I've never seen before. In the single-player mode here, we're playing against the computer. The computer is also a transformable jet fighter giant destructive robot. Herzog Zwei is one of the first Sega Genesis games that I owned back in the day. And unlike a lot of my other games, which I sold off to buy new game systems, I held on to my copy of Herzog Zwei because this is one of my favorite games ever made. And this is my original game cartridge, which is a good thing because this is actually not an inexpensive cartridge to buy these days. What you're seeing me doing now, when there's a wrench on the top of the screen that eventually turns into an OK symbol, is that I'm ordering a unit. And these screens flash up and you can see me cycling through them very quickly because since it's a real-time game, you can't stop the game and order additional units or repairs. You have to order them on the fly. So I'm moving through these things fairly quickly. That's another reason it'll take a couple parts to get through this review. You have a number of different units that you can order and send into combat against your opponent. The objective of the game is to destroy your opponent's base, which is the big thing that you see me hovering over from time to time or flying down and dropping tanks behind his base. So you have a base and your opponent has a base. And we'll get into the 2-player mode in a different part, but that's the main objective, to destroy your opponent's base. On the top of the screen, the bar that says B is your base strength. Mine is on the left, and the computer's base strength is on the right. There's a number of smaller sub-bases around the board, and when I pull up my equipment ordering screen, you can see that there's also a map on there The bases that I have control of have a red dot highlighting them. The bases the computer has are blue. To capture a base, you have to send 4 infantry soldiers into the base. And the more bases that you hold, the faster your credits increase. And it takes credits to order a unit and then give it a command. After ordering one of the units, you pick it up with your jet. You can't use the robot, just the jet. And then you fly around the screen and drop it off. It takes more energy to fly around the screen when you're carrying something and your plane moves slower. So there's a limited range that you can get to while carrying any piece of equipment. Which also means that you need your sub-bases closer to the enemy main base if you want to do like a rapid attack with a lot of different pieces and drop them off behind their base. The kind of units that you can order are tanks, you have armored cars, motorcycles, ground troops, missile launchers, missile launcher cannon defensive units, and refueling droids. You can give them commands, and you'll see me cycling through the command structure. Some of the commands are to approach and occupy an enemy sub-base. The one command you'll see me using a lot with the flag coming out of the ground is the attack enemy main base command. You can make your units stand still in a stationary defensive pattern. What makes this game really unique is that you're waging war against your opponent using these ground units, but then you, as a giant transformable robot, can also get into the battle. And units like the missile launching machines actually shoot missiles at your jet plane, so they prevent you from getting close to things if you're getting pounded by missiles. The tanks have higher defensive strength than the armored cars and motorcycles. And we'll get into the many different levels and strategies and complexities of this game in the next couple parts of this review. Herzog Zwei is not cheap these days, however, if you like what you see on screen, you'll love playing this game.